The film begins deep in the Amazon rainforest, where two indigenous individuals are foraging for food when a thunderous and frightening sound echoes through the air. Suddenly, a bulldozer emerges, tearing down trees and leveling the terrain. Meanwhile, on a university campus, a student activist group organizes a rally and hunger strike. Their loud chants awaken Justine in her dorm room, prompting her to peer out the window to observe the disturbance. The noise also rouses her roommate Casey and her boyfriend Scott, both expressing irritation at the commotion. Later, after purchasing food, Casey voices her annoyance with the activist group, perceiving their actions as mere theatrics without tangible impact on the world. In a classroom setting, Justine and her friends react with horror to their professor's lecture on brutal practices still endured by native tribes, particularly affecting women. Disturbed, Justine questions why the government hasn't intervened, mentioning her father's role as a United Nations attorney. The professor explains the complexity of intervening in another country's customs and beliefs despite past efforts. Following the lecture, a member of the activist group Jonah approaches Justine and invites her to join their cause, which fights for the rights of oppressed people. Reluctant, Justine agrees to consider it, and Jonah hands her a flyer detailing the next meeting's location and time. During lunch, Justine and Casey meet with Charles, Justine's father, urging him to help women at risk of the brutal practices. However, Charles dampens her enthusiasm by explaining the challenges of interfering in another country's affairs. To shift the conversation, Charles inquires about the necklace her mother gave her, crafted from her grandmother's silver. Justine informs her father that she left the necklace in her dorm room for safekeeping. Subsequently, she attends an ACT meeting where the leader, Alejandro, outlines their next mission: saving the lives of native people in the Amazon rainforest. Questioning the effectiveness of mere protests, Justine is rebuked by Alejandro, leading to her embarrassed departure from the meeting despite Jonah's attempts to persuade her to stay. That night, reflecting on her earlier actions, Justine seeks solace in her necklace. The next day, determined to prove her commitment, Justine apologizes to Alejandro and expresses her desire to join the group beyond their vision for justice. Impressed by her enthusiasm, Alejandro allows her to attend another meeting. In this session, Alejandro proposes a protest against a petrochemical company clearing the Amazon rainforest, intending to bring global attention by live streaming the event. Afterward, Kara, Alejandro's girlfriend, questions Justine's motives, hinting at a potential attraction to Alejandro. Justine refutes any personal interest and reaffirms her focus on the group's agenda. Casey voices concerns about Justine's safety, suggesting alternative ways to contribute without risking her life. However, Justine remains resolute, assuring Casey that she will be fine. Later, while packing, she tries to mislead her father through a phone call, claiming she's going on a school trip. Cutting the call, she rushes out with Casey following. Before departing for the airport, Casey warns Justine of potential dangers and urges her to stay safe. At the airport, the group meets Carlos, their sponsor, who, despite not fitting the activist stereotype, supports their cause. In Peru, they use local transportation to reach their destination. At the hotel, the group gathers to strategize and enjoy a meal. After dinner, Kara hands out shirts and Alejandro emphasizes the importance of continuous filming as their primary defense against the petrochemical company and its hired militia. Upon realizing the presence of armed gunmen among their adversaries, fear sets in among the members. However, Alejandro asserts that they are free to back out if they choose, yet no one dares to voice any reservations. They soon arrive at the bustling river port where the students rush to motorboats that will transport them to the protest site. On the boat, Daniel advises Justine to conserve her phone battery, revealing a GPS device that functions without internet connectivity. During a brief stop for a toilet break by the shore, Lars and Justine venture into the woods armed with a knife and gun. Justine returns earlier, laughing at Lars' misadventure with a tarantula. The group continues their 3-hour boat journey, encountering a majestic jaguar by the riverside, which Carlos explains is considered a guardian of nature. Upon arrival, the group changes into neon worker suits and blue helmets, leaving their belongings by the riverside. After dressing up, they navigate through the woods and reach the protest site. When given the signal by their inside contact, Alejandro hands out masks for everyone to wear. The group then chains themselves to bulldozers and trees to commence the protest. However, Justine encounters an issue with her padlock and calls for Kara's assistance. As they start filming, an explosion erupts, destroying one of the bulldozers. The group chants, declaring the area as Ya's home. The petrochemical company's private militia arrives to remove the protesters, but their chains impede efforts. Due to Justine's faulty padlock, a man seizes her, pushes her to the ground, and threatens to shoot her if the others do not comply. However, Alejandro boldly declares that people worldwide are watching the live stream of the group's protest for indigenous rights. He informs the online audience that the militia is willing to harm the daughter of a UN attorney. Hearing this, the gunmen hesitate and eventually lower their weapons. As Alejandro and Kara provocatively taunt the militia, seemingly indifferent to Justine's safety, she realizes that her defective padlock was part of the couple's plan. They intended for her to be the one threatened at gunpoint, leveraging her UN connections. Upon reaching the plane, Carlos bribes the police for their release. On the flight, the group celebrates their successful protest, but Justine looks disdainfully at Kara. Their video goes viral, prompting the Forest Stewardship Council to file a complaint against the company with the Peruvian government. Suddenly, the plane's engine explodes, leading to chaos as it descends. The aircraft splits in two upon crashing, with Carlos, Brooke, and the pilots meeting tragic fates. After the crash, Alejandro checks on everyone's well-being. Confused and scared, the group exits the plane, and Daniel suggests finding his GPS to signal for help. They start searching when Kara investigates a noise in the nearby trees. Dressed as petrochemical workers, a group is mistaken for a threat by the natives, resulting in Kara being killed by an arrow through the neck. Alarmed, the activists attempt to flee but are incapacitated by poison darts, rendering them unconscious. Justine awakens on a boat with headhunters and warriors rowing, realizing the other activists are in the same situation. Upon reaching the village, the red-painted villagers touch and thank the spirits for the bounty. The elder examines each activist, oddly smiling at Justine as if approving of her. The elder orders the tribe to imprison the students in a pig pen. Meanwhile, the older women of the tribe offer Jonah a drink and lead him to an altar. To the horror of the group, the village elder gouges out Jonah's eyeballs and tongue before another man dismembers him limb by limb, finally ending his suffering by decapitating him. Later that night, the villagers cook and consume Jonah in front of the fearful group. Alejandro reveals that bulldozers are expected in the next few days. Shockingly, he admits that Carlos works for a rival petrochemical company, and he hired Alejandro to stage the protest, removing the original company from the site for his employer's benefit. The group is appalled by Alejandro's betrayal, but he defends it, emphasizing that the media attention gained was his primary goal. He informs them that the rival company is due to arrive within 3 days and suggests they should be grateful for Jonah's flesh feeding the tribe. The group expresses their anger, and Samantha tries to escape through the top of the cage, only to be darted by a warrior. The next day, Justine wakes up to see a native child playing with her necklace. She entertains him by playing a miniature flute. The headhunter and warriors later pull all the women out of the cage. The village elder tests Amy, Samantha, and Justine for purity, with only Justine passing. She is taken to the elder's hut, where she loses her memory. Danielle uses a ring phone to distract the warrior, allowing Samantha to escape to the riverbank. Justine rejoins the group the next day with ceremonial paint and no memory. However, Danielle realizes the natives plan a barbaric ritual for her that could lead to severe consequences. Fearing the worst, he urges the group to escape. Alejandro encourages the group to eat the food scraps given to the pigs for energy before the escape. Despite being vegan, Amy eats the food and later discovers she consumes Samantha's flesh. Unable to cope with the realization, Amy takes her own life, prompting Lars and Daniel to insert illegal substances into her body, intending to intoxicate the tribe during consumption. As planned, the tribe becomes dazed by the substance. Lars, Daniel, and Justine attempt to escape, but Alejandro renders Lars unconscious with a poisoned dart, stating he needs someone to get eaten before him. Justine and Daniel have no choice but to flee. Meanwhile, Lars wakes up outside the cage only to be devoured alive by the ravenous natives. The two escapees find aircraft debris by the river and decide to follow the trail. Justine accidentally falls into the raging river but manages to grab hold of a rock and pull herself to safety. Hours later, Justine and Daniel arrive at the crash site, discovering the lifeless bodies of Kara, Carlos, and Brooke, all impaled by the tribe, while Daniel finds his GPS and has run out of power. Attempting to retrieve a working device from Kara's body, they are captured and brought back to the village. The next day, Justine awakens to find herself being lathered with an oily substance. Meanwhile, Daniel is tied to a stake and subjected to excruciating pain as his bones are broken with a blunt weapon. The villagers paint Justine's body and cover Daniel in a green substance attracting ants, causing him intense suffering. In the hut, the village elder is about to perform a barbaric ritual on Justine when a warrior arrives with a worker's head, alerting the tribe to the arrival of a new clearing crew. The warriors gather at the headhunter's order. Seeing the opportunity, Alejandro attempts to flee, but two young guards hinder him. The Eyes child that Justine befriended helps her escape the ropes, and she overpowers the woman guarding her. Outside, she approaches Daniel at the stake, who implores her to take the phone and end his life. The child intervenes, ending Daniel's misery. Justine ignores Alejandro's pleas and leaves him behind. In the forest, the child guides Justine to freedom, and in gratitude, she gives her flute necklace to the child. Reaching the river, she encounters a black jaguar and bravely crosses to the other side. Despite the imminent intervention of two natives, they let her go, interpreting the jaguar's presence as a sign. At the clearing, Justine witnesses the militia slaughtering the Yaz warriors with guns and explosives. To protect herself, she pretends to film the event on her phone, sending a video to the internet. The militia takes her to a helicopter, and she lies about being the sole survivor, leaving Alejandro in the hands of the Yaz tribe. Days later, Justine fabricates a story to her father and government officials, portraying the Yaz as friendly people who helped her before the militia slaughtered them upon arrival. Nightmares of the harrowing experience continue to haunt her. One day, she hears the sounds of another ACT rally and sees members wearing shirts with Alejandro's face. Later, she receives a call from Lucia, Alejandro's sister, who found satellite images resembling her brother and insists they need to talk, and the movie ends here. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. If you enjoyed this recap, check out one of these.